Somewhere right now, a founder is opening an email from the FDA. Clearance granted. Champagne in the conference room. In about 6 months, most of them are going to find out clearance was never the hard part. I've taken 40 products to market. Software, hardware, one medical device through an FDA De Novo clearance for a surgical robot, and the ones that struggled after launch almost never struggled because the engineering was bad. They struggled because nobody had the commercial conversation until the engineering was basically done. Here's what that conversation is: which decisions lock in the moment engineering starts, and which ones you can still walk back right now. That conversation isn't a sales pitch, and it isn't a customer interview. It's a structured look at who's actually buying, what has to be true for them to say yes, and what the product has to be for that yes to happen. It usually doesn't happen first because engineering is where founders are comfortable. Most hard tech founders came up as engineers. A technical problem has a clean shape. You can test it and ship it. A market problem is fuzzy, and fuzzy is uncomfortable when your career rewarded precision. Investors reinforce the lean too. A prototype is something they can evaluate. A market that doesn't exist yet is a story they take on faith. So engineering gets the budget, and the commercial questions wait. Quick word on why you should believe any of this. Base Reality Group is a consulting practice, and this video is a free version of what I'd tell a client in the first meeting. Nothing held back for the paid engagement. Use it if it's useful, and if you want someone in the room doing the work with you, that's a different conversation, and I'll leave the door open at the end. There's a line that shows up almost word for word across the people who've actually studied why medical devices fail commercially. Clearance is permission to market, not a reason anyone pays you. The FDA telling you it's legal to sell the thing is not the same as a hospital, an insurer, or a surgeon telling you they want it. Those are two different fights, and the most engineering-led teams only budget time for the first one. Reimbursement. Who pays and how much has to start at the idea stage, not after clearance. The answer changes what you build, the indication you seek, sometimes the entire architecture. Wait until you're cleared to ask it, and you've already built something that may not fit the answer. So here's where it gets concrete. Once engineering starts, 5 decisions get expensive to reverse fast: platform architecture, regulatory pathway, manufacturing model, feature scope, pricing structure. Every one looks like an engineering decision from inside the build. Every one is a commercial decision wearing an engineering costume. Take regulatory pathway, because I lived this one. We were building a cooperative controlled surgical robot, the kind where the surgeon is still physically driving, and we thought we had a clean case for a fast pathway. We even shared code with an existing cleared device. On paper, the predicate logic looked airtight. The FDA didn't see it that way. Your indication doesn't match, they told us. We pushed back. They didn't budge. And what they said next is a phrase you have to learn to translate. It would be advisable if we consider a different path. That's not a suggestion. That's the answer. We took the hint and redirected into a De Novo pathway, a route with no existing category to match against. Most founders hear De Novo and hear a punishment. I looked at it differently, and this is the part that matters for you. A De Novo signal means the FDA considers your device a reasonable risk. If you were genuinely high risk, you'd already be routed somewhere much harder like a PMA. And on a De Novo, you decide the safety story instead of telepathically matching a predicate's paperwork that you've never seen. Near the end of that process, the FDA has to write a brand new regulation just to describe your device because none exists yet. And they asked what we wanted it to say. We drafted a paragraph. Days later, we had clearance, and the regulation on the books was, word for word, what we'd written. We'd become the standard the entire category now has to match. That's what it looks like when the commercial conversation runs first. You hit the redirect and you ask what advantage might be hiding inside it. Skip that question, treat it as pure engineering annoyance, and the same redirect just costs you a year. Your position in the market doesn't move an inch. The other 4 work the same way. Platform architecture, pick a chip or a software stack built for one customer's workflow, and you've quietly decided who can buy from you for years. Manufacturing, build it yourself, or license it out sets your margin before you've sold a unit. Feature scope and pricing lock together because what you ship decides who can afford you. None of these things are wrong to decide early. They're wrong to decide by accident. So, if those are the decisions that lock in, here's the question worth the next 6 minutes. What does the commercial conversation actually look like, run well, before any of that's decided? 3 questions asked in that order, answered straight before a single architecture decision gets made. Who is actually going to buy this? What do they need to be true? Their budget, their risk tolerance, their workflow, before they'll say yes. And given that, what does the product actually have to be? Not what's technically elegant. What clears the bar the buyer just described? How you go get real answers isn't one size fits all, and I'd rather level with you than hand you a fake checklist. Different founders validate differently, and more than one of them can be right. Some founders are keyboard hackers. Building a rough version costs them nothing, so they build it and read the reaction. Some think in decks, not code. They can't ship a prototype, but they can build a sharp deck and get real signal from a room in 20 minutes. Neither is more legitimate. The mistake is picking the wrong tool for what you're building. There's a third type, and you'll recognize this one. The founder who can't explain the value in words, so he shows it. That's Dropbox. Drew Houston couldn't get people to understand cloud file syncing by describing it. So back in its early launch days, he made a 3-minute video that just showed it working. And people watched and got it immediately. How simple is that? I want to tell you my side because it makes the point better than his does. When Dropbox launched, I didn't get it. I thought it was a weird way to burn bandwidth. It didn't land until I actually had a second computer and realized if my documents folder was my Dropbox folder, everything I owned was backed up and in sync everywhere I worked. That was the moment it clicked. It was a genuine thunderclap. I've paid for it every year since, for as long as it's existed, and that's the actual proof, not a throwaway detail. Anybody can say a product changed their life once. A subscription that survives 15 years of renewal decisions is somebody voting with money over and over, long after the excitement wore off. If you want to know whether your commercial conversation actually landed, don't ask if they like it. Ask if they're still paying a year later. That's the whole shape of it. 3 straight questions, answered by whichever method fits the founder, validated by sustained behavior instead of polite enthusiasm. Run it before the architecture locks, and the 5 decisions from before stop being guesses. They become answers to questions you already asked. Now the honest question. Across 40 products, is there a clean pattern, some formula that separates the ones that got this right from the ones that didn't? I get asked that constantly, and I'll give you the same answer I gave a few days ago. Nope. And I don't think there could be. If things were that easy to distill down into simple algorithms, Y Combinator would be a $1 trillion company already. Take a random bunch of college students, randomly generate a company name, create a C corporation, drop them in as a couple of Ken dolls, and voila, instant successful company. Nobody's done that. That's the evidence. What substitutes for a formula is breadth. 40 products across industries that share no customer and no technology, internet software, telecom hardware, consumer wireless, a regulated surgical robot. That all taught me to recognize a bad sequencing decision faster, not to apply a checklist. Even the right order of questions isn't fixed. It depends on what you're building. That's the honest answer, and I trust it more than a tidy formula, because a tidy formula would mean nobody ever had to make a mistake to learn it. So here's what's actually useful instead. If you're already inside an engineering-led build, some of this is still fixable. Feature scope and pricing, usually still adjustable, even late, because they're the most commercial and least physical of the 5. Platform architecture and manufacturing get expensive to change fast, but not impossible, especially before volume production. Regulatory pathway is where timing matters most, because the FDA reads your submissions in order and your framing has to stay consistent throughout. But even there, like my own story a few minutes ago, a redirect you didn't ask for can turn into the advantage you didn't see coming if you ask what's actually available inside the constraint instead of fighting to get back to your original plan. The one thing genuinely hardest to fix after the fact is a product build for a market that was never asked for, whether it wanted this in this shape at this price. No regulatory redirect fixes that. That's the commercial conversation that should have happened first, showing up late and expensive. If you're in the middle of a build right now, I genuinely like to know, of those 5 decisions, which one have you already locked in without really choosing it on purpose? Which one do you think you could still walk back? Tell me in the comments. I might be wrong about how fixable some of these are for your specific situation, and I'd like to hear from you rather than assume I've got it right. For expert commercialization support, contact Dave Saunders through Base Reality Group LLC at baserealitygroup.com. If you want someone in the room while you're making these calls instead of after, that's what the practice is for. Subscribe if this kind of thinking is useful to you. There's more of it coming.